Hello, welcome back to Space Engineers. Now, this is a time-lapse of footage that I did while building the shuttle that I said I wanted to get on with in the last episode. So everything is very sped up. Hopefully that's not too disorientating for anyone, but it took too long to actually do it in episodes. That would have taken up the next several episodes of the series, and I didn't think you'd want to sit through that. Awful lot of me just staring at ships, grinding and welding, so decided, nope, just record it, do the footage in post. Now, I attached the shuttle to the mining ship here because there's a slight issue in one of the recent updates where now if you start a shuttle floating in space and accidentally fly into it, it will send it flying. They're no longer locked onto the grid until they actually try and move themselves. So had to build it attached to something. This is more of a problem when you're building a big ship, as you can't just attach it to the side of something with ease. They end up often getting in the way of each other, but for something like this, simple enough to do this. Now, I chose a large thruster for this, based mainly on the fact that I wanted to be able to get a lot of speed, to accelerate away from things if I get into trouble, as this is a gun shuttle that I'm making. And that's because in another update recently, there was a bit of a change that now the enemy ships, when you try and capture them, will fire at you. All these turrets and things they have on them have ammo now, which is a lot more dangerous. If you're out in space, they will just kill you in a few seconds. If you're in a ship, you've just got to hope your ship survives long enough. Now, you do have a slightly better chance of doing the attacking than they do, because you sort of start firing from slightly further out with quite a reasonable accuracy, and your ship can survive a good amount of time. Now, obviously, heavy armor blocks would make my shuttle have a lot more health, but heavy armor blocks require a hell of a lot more power, and it's basically required that you use a large reactor for that, which makes a small shuttle very much so bigger, as it's about the same size as the medium cargo container there, so I'd need to have space for the equivalent of 2 of those in the shuttle, and I'm generally very poor at designing shuttles that I like the look of when they're like that. Now, a lot of the blocks I'm placing as I go, nothing's really permanent until the ship's built. Even at the end, when we're pretty much done, where this episode will finish, there's nothing that states that the design is the final design. It's just the design that I've settled on for the moment. So can't quite fill in all the blocks there, can't quite reach them, but decided, you know what, it's okay, just worry about getting the shuttle sort of built, and when I lift it off I can then fix it. And things like the position of that landing pad, it's only there to lock it in place while I'm building it. You know, that isn't part of the final design yet. So taking advantage of this mine layer that we got, the ridiculous number of steel plates that are in every heavy armor block are brilliant for this, and the number of thrusters and things really useful for us. One thing we are very low on at the moment is uranium. Do not have a lot of that sitting around. Ships now, as they come in, generally tend to have more uranium in than they used to, but that would involve going and capturing a new ship. That will probably have to be a private sale or a business shipment, as those don't seem to be armed. Unlike the others, they're generally not armed and not trapped, so excellent ships to go for. You know, yes, they're only light armor, don't tend to have a lot to them, but they have a lot of uranium, so useful. And you'll see an awful lot of me running around at the moment. I'm actually looking for anything really silicon based, because I need some bulletproof glass and some displays. Struggling to get those, had a bit of trouble with that, couldn't really find any laying around, which was a bit of a problem for a while, but found the way around it. Ended up just deciding, screw it, start destroying cockpits of the other 2 ships. You know, I've got this one left to actually charge my suit at, so not a major issue there. So just went with it. And I don't know if you'll have caught it earlier, the first time I came into the ship, when I went to the med bay, I did actually change the colour of my suit. That's a new update, that you can select your colour at the med bay. which is extremely useful. Any med bays you already have will update with the new model on their own, so you don't have to make any changes for that. So that was me checking how much fuel the thing had, making sure that if I stole some of the uranium that it wouldn't be too bad, as my other ship only had 2 hours of fuel left, which would have meant that I'd have run out near the end of the video. So decided, forget it, just, you know, steal some from something else, and then just me going around picking things to pull apart to get different bits that I needed. And so yeah, still struggling with that, and then decided, you know what, let's do some more work on the aesthetics. You know, we're struggling on the glass, let's just move on for a moment rather than keep going in circles. And then I just was thinking over while I did this, you know, can I afford to get rid of the other cockpits? In the end decided yes, so you will see that later that I do pull them apart. And at this point decided couldn't be bothered to colour it in, left it all grey. I do paint it later in the video. So just adding some nice curves to this ship, making it look that little bit better. I do have issues with the small ships only having this single cockpit design. I'm not a big fan of the design. I totally appreciate why it looks the way it does, but that big chunkiness around the base of it, if I leave it as the base of the ship, looks awful. If I fill in the ship under it, I end up with a hell of a lot more ship than I intended. So it's this playing the balance of blocks to try and get something that vaguely looks good, I really struggle with small ships. I'm a much bigger fan of messing around with big ship designs, because I can just shove the cockpit inside it and then make it look a lot better. But this one actually I was quite happy with the way it came out. Went with the medium cargo as an option, just because it gives you a good balance of keeping the ship in proportion, unlike the humongous size of the large container, but still actually, you know, holds enough to be useful, because this way, if I do break a ship when I go out to it, I can just take my hand welder out, pull it apart, shove it in the cargo container, not actually worry about actually getting the ship home. Although if I want to try moving the ship around, I've got the large thruster on the back of this thing, so quite a lot of capability to pick things up and move them, as that large thruster is a lot more powerful than this ship actually requires. Does cause me issues with power. A lot of issues with power actually. I've got 3 small reactors that get put on this ship. You'll see those going in a bit, but they're just not quite able to really power this large thruster. Having a large thruster, you really do want a large reactor, but as I say, just didn't go with what I wanted for this ship. In the future, I might build another one that actually has that, and that would actually be quite a large shuttle in the end, because it will have a medium cargo container, a large reactor, several large thrusters. It'll be quite the large shuttle, more along the sizes of the shuttles that you're given now if you start a new world. They've updated what you get if you take the normal easy start. You get given these 3 fantastic shuttles now that have complete setup working conveyor systems, which are amazing. Really worth actually starting a new world just to play about in those if you've got an old world that you're using. We're not going to start a new world because we deliberately started in a world where all we had was asteroids anyway, so we wouldn't have those shuttles even if we had that. Although there are several differences now to the design of the rescue shuttle that you get given. My favourite of which is that the slatted metal window that was at the front of it has now actually been swapped out for a glass pane, so you can actually see out the front of the ship. It's not just locked inside. And so here I'm just debating on thruster placement. Thought I'll put it there, and then realised I'd actually have to put 4 of them in to be happy with the symmetry of the ship. So decided, you know, forget it, move it in a bit further. Still doesn't look amazing, but looks a lot better than if I'd decided to have it sticking out, and can't really reach under effectively, so decided put 1 down. When I raise the ship up later, once I'm happy with it, I can move it then. You know, it's not a problem. don't have to worry about making the bottom look good, working out where I want to put the landing thrusters and things until I'm done. So got a nice vaguely symmetrical placing for these. Wanted the front one further forward, but it doesn't like you placing things on top of the cockpit. To do that, you have to have blocks along the back of the cockpit, which at this point in the design process I didn't know if I was going to have any, so decided to just do it this way. Been making great use of that cargo container on that ship there. Here I decided to go after that private sail because I said they're unarmed, have a lot of resources that are useful, especially the uranium. It vanished shortly after I set off, so came home again and gave up. The next ship I want to go for is something in that category of ships, so private sail, business shipment, or commercial freighter. One of the three, if I see one, is what I will be going for in one of the next few episodes, hoping for that. That was me just having a look at the size of the large reactor to work out the balance, and then deciding, you know what, really don't like it. And so decided, forget it, not having that large reactor there, you know, cannot stand the appearance of it. But as I say, I will build another ship in the future that has a large reactor, but I think that might also have a few heavy armor blocks. Not a lot. I've built a ship in a multiplayer world that I might jump onto as one of the non-Let's Play series videos, as I've got a save of our world, and this was me having a real problem with the rotation of the blocks. I'm not normally quite that bad, but yeah, if I jump on that world and let you see it, I will do that. Built that out of nothing but heavy armor blocks. It basically looks like you've taken a small shuttle and completely encased it in armor blocks. It's quite a nice aesthetic. I'm really pleased with the way that ship came out, but boy does it need a lot of power to move. I initially attached nothing but small thrusters to it, had 4 in every direction, and the thing could barely move. It was absolutely awful. And one of the things I'm still debating with this little shuttle is whether or not to add another gyroscope to it. Not as a permanent thing. Its movement's not too bad, although for a fighter it could do with slightly more, but that gets a little hard to actually manoeuvre. So not 100% certain if I'll keep the gyroscope on all the time, but if I'm planning to latch the ship onto other ships in order to sort of guide them in if I've accidentally broken them, then I'm going to need a bit more power in the gyroscope system. So something that I'm debating but haven't made my mind upon yet. So there's a space I've left on the shuttle where that can go. Let me know in the comments if you think it's a good idea to include the extra gyroscope, and I may. Not 100% though. Just got slightly distracted from the shuttle building there, had plenty of steel plates on me, and decided let's just fix some of this up, even though I'm going to end up breaking it again at some point in the future, because as I said, that ship exists to eventually pull apart and build a station, which I'm hoping to start on next episode. I was doing some single player messing around this week and built a bit of a station that I actually really like. Had a lot of fun with that, a lot of fun with the conveyor systems and things. So really enjoying that, really hoping to get a nice looking station started and get that going. I want to play with pistons and things. I've got a design in my head for the first thing I want to do with a piston setup, which is a clever use of the rotors that I've seen on YouTube, and I want to do it to set up a sort of big ship grinding station. So fingers crossed that that will get done relatively soon. Hopefully won't take us too many episodes to get a decent amount of that down, as I don't want to actually spend lots of episodes time-lapsing big builds, but I do have a lot of big building plans. So I'm thinking for the station, if for most of the steel blocks that I want to place that just form the platform of it, if I just place the frameworks, I'll weld them off camera, you know, at the end of the episode or something, and just place the frameworks for the moment to build the machinery on top, just instead of actually taking up all that time. As the one downside to having the not 10 times inventory and things, is that it does take a lot longer. So here I decided to go with a bit of blue paint on the shuttle. I'm going to add some accent paints in the future. Then I accidentally moused over the mining ship while I was painting, so just fix that a second. And then I'm thinking of a pale colour to go with the slightly darker blue. I'm debating whether that wants to be a pale blue or a slightly different colour. So just got slightly distracted here with repairing a lot of the dents in the ship. They always annoy me. These rescue shuttles always start out full of dents when you get them, and I do quite like to just spend some time fixing those. So that's what I was doing here. A lot of other things that I need to fix in the future, but haven't quite got the materials in my inventory at this moment in time to fill in all those things, so was just able to fix the things that didn't need any extra items. But the ship has been coming along well, so this is the main blue that I'll be using across the ship. It's just then a debate of what colour I want to go with it. I don't want to go with white because that's the colour of the commercial ships that exist in the game, so blue and white isn't an option. Blue and grey though, quite happy with that idea. Or come up with another suggestion. Anything you think would go really well with this kind of blue, or recommend another deep shade of blue that isn't a really dark shade of blue. I don't want to go any darker than this, but if there's any shades of blue that you'd recommend instead, let me know that. But I definitely want it to be a 2-colour ship. There will be sections of the other colour just to highlight things, and so let me know what you think there. Now, I've deliberately left a hole at the front of the ship in case you notice that just there. That's where the hole for the other gyroscope is, just in case I decide to go for it. Not 100% on whether I'm putting that in, as I said. So now we're fueling it up. So instantly all the lights turn on and it's already looking fantastic. Now here I'm trying to unlock it, but it doesn't let me unlock it. Slightly frustrating. Worked out it's probably because I never actually finished the landing gear, so it wasn't letting me. Now at this point it moves very slowly in an upwards direction because of the single thruster, but just playing around a bit. I will do next episode some actual showing off of how it maneuvers in normal time, as you can't really get a sense of it here due to me doing it in this much faster speed. But I will next episode show you what that looks like. But it maneuvers rather nicely, especially this forward momentum is amazing. So then I decided, okay, let's actually finish off the bottom of the ship now, leave it floating in the air and get that placed. So everything coming in quite nicely here, and then placing the wrong block there, so it takes me a moment to realise I've not got a thruster in my hand. But nearly done now with this episode, so I'm just going to sort of round up. Hope that you've enjoyed watching this. Hope the commentary hasn't been too boring. I find it a bit awkward doing it in post, but very necessary for this episode. And please, if you have a name suggestion, leave it in the comments below. I'm not going to name it myself, so if no one leaves a comment, the ship is going to be called Beacon. I want it to be named by a viewer, so please leave your suggestions in the comments. To my friends that normally then suggest things in Skype, please add it to the comments so that I don't lose it, because I'm not sure when I'll actually remember to change the name, so please leave that in the comments. And as I say, please also leave your colour suggestions and anything you'd like to see on the space station. I've got my ideas in my head, but leave me your ideas as well, and then we can hopefully build a fantastic station together, and hopefully not too many time lapses. Hopefully find a way to do a lot of it on camera and in time. As I said, I can always just place frameworks and fill those in off camera for a lot of the basic blocks, so that you're not actually sitting through the going backwards and forwards, and if necessary I can always change the inventory size to 10 times if we need to speed things up, but for now going to leave it as it is. So I would say I really hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's given you some good ideas for what you'd like to do. And I will see you soon. So take care.